The desert is never silent, though to most it seems so. Beneath its veil of stillness lies a whisper of wind through dry grass, a faint rustle of beetles searching for shelter, and the steady breathing of the earth itself. Under the pale light of the moon, the dunes turn silver, and every grain of sand glows as if the stars had fallen and settled upon the ground. In that silence, a small shape moved. A newborn gazelle cub, barely a few weeks old, walked carefully across the cool sand. His legs, though thin, were steady. His coat, soft and golden beige, shimmered under the moonlight. His large black eyes, still wide with innocence, reflected the distant stars like tiny mirrors of the heavens above. He had wandered this path many nights now, each time the same direction, each step guided not by sight, but by memory, a memory of warmth off a heartbeat he once knew. The cub's name, had he been given one, might have meant hope, but names were not needed here. What defined him was love, a love that had not understood death, and therefore refused to end. In the far reaches of the savannah, the dry season had been merciless. The rains had not come when they should have. The grass had turned brittle, and even the acacia trees stood like shadows of themselves. For the cub, those days were fragments. His mother's strong legs beside him, her gentle nudges to keep moving, and her voice, a low, humming tone that made him feel safe. She had been everything, the world's only warmth, its only sound. Then came the storm of dust, not of rain or thunder, but of wind that tore through the plains, bringing heat that suffocated even the strongest of creatures. The mother had slowed, her breaths growing shallow. Predators were nowhere in sight. Only exhaustion was the enemy that day. When the cub pressed his head against her neck, he felt it still rise and fall, weakly, slowly, until finally it didn't. He waited, he called, he nudged her with his small head, but the wind answered for her. And as the day faded into night, the mother gazelle became still beneath the stars. Now, every night, when the world was quiet, the cub returned to the same spot, the place where the earth still held the scent of his mother. It was as if the desert itself remembered her shape. Her body, though lifeless, had become part of the land, a soft mound of faded fur and sand. The cub would approach her slowly, careful not to disturb the stillness around her. He would lower his head, touching his small nose to what remained of her side, and then lie down beside her. Under the gaze of the moon, the two of them looked like silhouettes carved from memory, one alive, one not, yet somehow together. Each night he came, each night he slept there, and each morning, before dawn broke, he disappeared back into the herd's edge, returning to the world of the living before others noticed. From a distance, humans had begun to take notice. Rangers from a nearby reserve had seen the cub through their night scopes, his tiny frame alone under the stars. They had wondered what drew him away from safety, why he vanished at dusk and returned at dawn. One of them decided to follow. He trailed the cub's faint hoofprints through the soft sand until the shapes of the dunes opened into a clearing. There, illuminated by the moonlight, he saw the scene. The little gazelle lying beside the motionless figure of an adult, the remains of what must have been his mother. For a moment, even the man who had seen countless cycles of life and death in the wild could not breathe. He stood still, the soft hum of his camera recording what words could not. And each morning, before dawn broke, he disappeared back into the herd's edge, returning to the world of the living before others noticed. From a distance, humans had begun to take notice. Rangers from a nearby reserve had seen the cub through their night scopes, his tiny frame alone under the stars. They had wondered what drew him away from safety, why he vanished at dusk and returned at dawn. One of them decided to follow. He trailed the cub's faint hoofprints through the soft sand until the shapes of the dunes opened into a clearing. There, illuminated by the moonlight, he saw the scene. The little gazelle lying beside the motionless figure of an adult, the remains of what must have been his mother. For a moment, even the man who had seen countless cycles of life and death in the wild could not breathe. He stood still, the soft hum of his camera recording what words could not. The desert is honest. It neither hides nor comforts. It simply holds what it is given. In the following weeks, scavengers came and went, and the body of the mother returned slowly to the soil. But the cub's affection did not fade with her form. He still found her, not with his eyes, but with his heart. The faint smell of her fur that lingered in the wind, the memory of her warmth in the sand where she had lain. Each time he arrived, he stood silently for a while, as if waiting for a sign, a movement, a sound, anything that said she was still near. Then quietly, he lay beside her again. The moon bore witness. The stars seemed to linger longer above him, unwilling to look away. The human reflection, when the ranger returned to camp, he shared what he had seen. Around the fire that night, silence fell among the team. They had rescued animals before, seen mothers protect their young and herds mourn their fallen, but this was something else. "This little one," said one of them softly, "he believes love doesn't end when the body stops moving." And they were right. In the weeks that followed, the rangers kept their distance, but watched from afar. They saw how the cub began to grow, his legs stretching taller, his movements surer. Yet every night, his path was the same, a pilgrimage not of need but of devotion. Even when he no longer needed milk, when he could run faster and farther, he still came back, to remember, to belong. As time passed, the rains finally came. The desert turned from gold to green, the air thick with the scent of new life. Herds moved freely again, grazing across the plains. The cub, now taller and leaner, began to run with them, swift, graceful, wild. But as dusk returned each night, his eyes drifted eastward, toward the old dunes, toward the place where love had once lain. Sometimes he went. Sometimes he only looked from afar. It is said that animals forget quickly, but the heart does not keep time the way seasons do. And so, even when his visits grew less frequent, they never truly stopped. Love for him had become part of his instinct, woven into the rhythm of his hooves, the pulse of the wind, the silence of the stars. Years later, when the same desert sands had shifted 100 times, a new ranger found bones near the edge of an old dune. They were small, delicate, and lay beside the scattered remains of an older skeleton. Time had erased the difference between them. The desert had kept them together, the way the cub had always wanted. Perhaps the cub had grown old and returned in his final days. Perhaps he had never left at all. No one knows. But those who found the site say it looked peaceful, two shapes resting side by side, like echoes of a promise fulfilled. In the chronicles of nature, moments like these rarely find their way into reports or documentaries. They live quietly, unrecorded, as part of the unseen poetry of the wild. Yet, in this one small cub, the desert showed us something profound. It reminded us that emotion is not owned by humans alone. Compassion, grief, loyalty, these are threads that bind all life, visible or unseen. The cub did not mourn as humans do. He did not weep or speak. But in his silent return, in every step he took back to his mother's side, he carried the purest form of love. One without language, without expectation, without end. Imagine now the desert once more.